Jesse's eyebrow news. There we go.
Claire's going to tweet about this.
Yes, I'm setting myself up big. All right, feeling festive? Christmas tree eyebrows are the new rage. Yes, look at this. They're decorating them with art and glitter and glue, little baubles for the holiday season. Isn't that Christmassy?
Cool.
That is the war on Christmas.
You like it?
Personified.
That is grotesque.
It's really
love it. I would do that for a shoot. Not another shoot.
Oh, great. We're going to do it
that.
next Tuesday.
Also, Waters World. Look, we have Willie Robertson from Duck Dynasty, Jerry Falwell Jr. Wow, Ed Diamond and Silk. What a mix!
Yeah,
and I interviewed a migrant from the caravan. Migrant from the caravan comes into Waters World 8 p.m.
Okay, we only left 15 seconds for you, Emily, but you talk fast.
I'll be fast. That's good. On a cold Thursday afternoon, Ohio's Norton Fire Division received a call of a dog that had fallen through the ice into a pond. The firefighters quickly sprang into action, rushed to the dog's location. They found him struggling in the frigid waters. One firefighter bravely jumped into the water, broke through the ice to rescue the scared pup. He was able to reach the dog.
That is it for us. We'll see you back here on Monday. Emily will be on Fox & Friends Saturday and Sunday. You won't want to miss that. Special report is up next. I can't talk as fast as her. Hey, Bret.
Thanks, Dana. You have a dog? All right. Anyway, President Trump signs a trade deal, avoids Putin, and comes face-to-face with the Saudi Crown Prince all in one day at the annual G20 summit. Here at home, Alaskans are rocked by a 7-point earthquake this afternoon. And your recent hotel stay could be one of the largest data breaches in history. This is Special Report. Good evening, I'm Bret Baier, coming to you tonight from the beautiful Ronald Reagan Presidential Library here in Simi Valley, California, where I'm taking part in the annual Reagan National Defense Forum this weekend, bringing together some of the top brass, including Defense Secretary James Mattis, to address the health of our national defense. More on that in just a bit. But first, President Trump is abroad tonight at the G20 summit in Argentina, where our standing in the world is in the spotlight as the president meets with several world leaders, even as he avoids others. But while he praised a new trade deal with Canada and Mexico today, the Russia investigation was not far from his mind, as his administration placed the blame for sour relations with Russia on the special counsel. Chief White House correspondent John Roberts is in Buenos Aires tonight with a look at the day's events. Good evening, John.
Bret, good evening to you. These G20 summits are structured to really highlight global cooperation. But for President Trump and his America First policy, it's really the individual relationships between nations that matter. President Trump began his day with the historic signing of the U.S.-Mexico-Canada agreement. He hopes putting the final nail in NAFTA.
The USMCA is the largest, most significant, modern and balanced trade agreement in history. All of our countries will benefit greatly. It is probably the largest trade deal ever made also.
The president still has some heavy lifting. He needs to get the agreement through Congress, and passage is not assured. President Trump also has a challenge tomorrow when he meets with China's President Xi. The White House is hoping for a breakthrough between the two leaders to end the escalating trade war. Failure could cement economic worries that sent the stock markets into convulsions over the past few weeks. Even as he focused on trade, President Trump had an eye on the Mueller investigation and the Michael Cohen plea today, starting his day with a tweet that read, "Lightly looked at doing a building somewhere in Russia, put up zero money, zero guarantees, and didn't do the project. Witch hunt." Russian officials added to the intrigue today, claiming President Trump canceled his meeting with Vladimir Putin not because of the situation in Ukraine, but because of political heat back home.
Is the Kerch provocation created by Kiev in this region the real reason for canceling the meeting? Officially, we heard that, but is this the reality? I think we have to search for the answers in the domestic political situation in the United States.
Press Secretary Sarah Sanders fired back. The Russian witch hunt hoax, which is hopefully now nearing an end, is doing very well. Unfortunately, it probably does undermine our relationship with Russia. However, the reason for our canceled meeting is Ukraine. Hopefully that will be resolved soon so that productive conversations can begin. President Trump managed to avoid a potentially controversial moment, speaking only briefly with the Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman today. The White House says the two leaders exchanged pleasantries but did not have a substantive conversation. President Trump has sided with bin Salman in the killing of Saudi journalist Jamal Khashoggi, fearing that isolating him could jeopardize fat contracts for American companies and drive Saudi Arabia into the arms of Russia. Those concerns were reinforced today when Vladimir Putin, who doesn't give a lick about optics, warmly high-fived the Saudi leader. Plenty of Putin's critics have ended up dead, and the two seem genuinely happy to see each other.
While the president was able to celebrate,
there is still an opportunity for President Trump to speak, albeit potentially briefly, with both Vladimir Putin and Mohammed bin Salman out of sight of the cameras tonight when he joins the rest of the G20 leaders for dinner. Brett?
John Roberts, live in Buenos Aires tonight. John, thanks. As we said, the Russia investigation is not far from the president's mind while he's in Argentina. And back in Washington, there have been new developments in the case against the president's former campaign chairman. Chief Intelligence Correspondent Catherine Harrods joins us with more. Good evening, Catherine.
Well, thank you, Brett, and good evening. The special counsel has until next week to explain why the plea fell apart as more legal action is threatened. Paul Manafort's legal team arrived at the federal court in Washington for the short hearing where special counsel prosecutor Andrew Weissman indicated more criminal charges are under consideration, including offenses Manafort admitted to but was never charged with. Manafort's lawyers say the special counsel is using pressure tactics, and the plea deal broke down because Mueller's team wants information their client cannot provide. A tentative sentencing is now scheduled for March.
Mr. Cohen has cooperated.
A day after the president's former personal attorney pled guilty to lying to Congress, Donald Trump Jr.'s 2017 Senate testimony about the Moscow real estate proposal is under scrutiny. While Michael Cohen claimed he briefed the Trump family, the president's son said he knew, quote, very little about the deal, adding, it sort of faded away, I believe, at the end of 2014. That timeline appears to conflict with Cohen, who said discussions continued until June 2016. Separately, Felix Sater, a Russian-born real estate developer, broached the idea of a penthouse for Russian President Vladimir Putin. Sater did not comment to Fox on the penthouse proposal, but said, quote, no matter which capital you built this caliber of a project in, you would need cooperation of local government. A former Justice Department official is reserving judgment.
The big question is whether it crosses the line to establish some sort of criminal wrongdoing on the part of the president or those close to him. I think that is the big question. Politically damaging, yes. What are the legal consequences? I would say to be determined. Pointing to a double standard, Fox News has learned the president's legal team is revisiting their 2017 request to Mueller and Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein to investigate former FBI Director James Comey over the accuracy of his sworn congressional testimony. Comey's lawyers were also in court today battling a congressional subpoena for a closed-door interview under oath. The committee chairman accused the former director of using the same legal tactics as the firm behind the anti-Trump dossier.
He is trying to run the clock on us, and that's why we think he's filed this motion to quash. Fusion GPS also tried that. They were knocked down, and instead he came in, Glenn Simpson came in and took the fifth.
Late today, the judge said he may rule on the Comey subpoena as early as Monday. Comey wants a public hearing because he accuses some of the committee members of selective leaks, even though 16 other committee witnesses have agreed to a closed-door interview, including former senior FBI leadership. Brett.
To Ukraine.
Catherine Harrods live in Washington. Catherine,
you're
thanks.
welcome.
Ukraine is now stopping many Russian men from traveling to the country as it fears a takeover by Russia, similar to that in Crimea. Correspondent Trey Yingst with the latest on increasing tensions tonight from our Mideast Bureau.
Russian men, ages 16 to 60, are now banned from traveling to Ukraine amid growing fears of a ground invasion from Russia. Reports indicate the main focus for this restriction will be the 1,200-mile land border between the two countries, although the new ban applies to all ports of entry. The policy, announced by Ukrainian President Petro Poroshenko on Twitter, is an attempt by his government to prevent a further land grab by Russia.
This measure prevents forming of units of private armies by the Russian Federation, which are in fact representatives of the Russian Federation's armed forces.
The new travel ban comes as reports today indicate the 24 Ukrainian sailors who were captured during Sunday's clash off the coast of Crimea have been moved to a detention facility in Moscow, further raising tensions between the two countries. Ukraine's parliament voted this week in favor of Poroshenko's proposal to implement martial law, giving the country the ability to limit travel, impose curfews, and easily mobilize military units. The new restrictions are already being felt along the Ukraine-Russia border, where families are experiencing the escalation of the conflict.
I'm a Ukrainian citizen. I arrived at a checkpoint to meet my brother with his family, mother and children. My brother is 48 years old and he was not allowed to enter.
A spokesperson for the Russian Foreign Ministry indicated Friday that Moscow has no plans to retaliate with similar travel restrictions for Ukrainian citizens. Daily life in Ukraine following Sunday's clash off the coast of Crimea is gradually approaching a state of war as diplomatic efforts are trying to avoid a full-scale military confrontation. Brett?
Trey, thanks. In 2014, when Russia took over Crimea, our late colleague Charles Krauthammer had this to say about that moment.
Putin has taken over the Crimean Peninsula. He now is in a position to take other parts of Ukraine if he wants. This is Russia's attempt to grab Ukraine as a way to reconstitute a mini-Soviet empire. When Hitler went into the Sudetenland, he claimed it was in response to a desire on the part of the population. This is what all dictators do.
So what is Putin's desire now? For more analysis on all of this, we turn to two of my Fox News colleagues joining me here at the Reagan National Defense Forum, National Security Correspondent Jennifer Griffin and Chris Wallace, anchor of Fox News Sunday. Gorgeous setting, right?
Again, for the second year in a row, and having covered Reagan for 6 years, whenever I come here, I think of his sunny disposition in his sense that the sun is rising, not setting on America.
What about the sun in Ukraine? What is the sense of this tense moment there, as Russia clearly is doing something?
Well, yes, absolutely, and they have decided to issue this provocation by basically claiming control over the Kerch Strait. On the one hand, you could argue that Donald Trump has been a lot more proactive than Barack Obama when it comes to Russia and Ukraine. He has sent lethal weapons, advanced artillery to the Ukrainians. President Obama refused to do that. On the other hand, he's made it very clear that he understands that Russia has much more direct interest in Ukraine and especially in Crimea. I'd be curious to hear what Jennifer has to say, but I don't think that he's going to get much more deeply involved in this.
You know, he canceled that meeting in G20 with Putin, saying the reason was the Ukrainian action. You know, people speculated whether there was more to that cancellation or not. But what do you think? How big an issue will it be here at the Defense Forum, this Ukrainian action?
Well, I think it'll be one of many flashpoints that they're going to be discussing. If you look at where we were a year ago, Brett, standing here on November 29, 2017, the North Koreans had just fired their third intercontinental ballistic missile. All of the talk here at the forum was how to deter North Korea. This time, the discussion is really going to center around defense budgets. That's where you're going to see a lot of flashpoints, because you have a new defense strategy that articulates that we're going to have to focus on and deter Russia and China, but it comes at a time that you've just gotten a $716 billion budget, one of the largest of all times, and already the president is talking about having the Defense Department cut by 5% when they're just starting to deal with all sorts of readiness issues. You have a new Democrat coming in as the head of the House Armed Services Committee, Adam Smith. He says that he wants to cut the defense budget. So the tension here is going to be, how do you do more with less budget?
And you've done some amazing stories about the state of our U.S. military right now, even as they look at those numbers. Charles Krauthammer is on my mind for some reason today. Here he is in 1986 talking about the Reagan Doctrine.
I think it has now come to mean this policy of support for guerrilla movements. It's our belief in wars of national liberation. It amounts to a very significant shift in our history of containment. It's a new way to contain the Soviet Union. It's containment aimed at the latest acquisitions of the Soviet Empire.
I mean, he kind of explained that, Chris, and you were obviously covering the White House during that time. Is there a Trump doctrine that we can pin down?
Let me just also say that the Reagan doctrine when it came to the Russians was, we win, they lose.
Right.
And I think that President Trump has a very different view of the world. First of all, America first. And that, yes, we have alliances and we have adversaries, but we have a very kind of narrow focus on what helps our country. And we see this both with our enemies and our adversaries. For instance, NATO. Ronald Reagan talked an enormous amount about the unity, the sanctity of the Atlantic Alliance and taking on the Soviet Union. President Trump has much more of a kind of practical, transactional sense of what our relationship is with NATO certainly than Ronald Reagan did. And again, it's America first, very narrow interest. Take a look at Saudi Arabia. Obviously, we're horrified by the murder of Jamal Khashoggi, but on the other hand, we have national security interests, so we're going to put up with a lot of stuff.
Did you see that moment where the Crown Prince gave a high five to Vladimir Putin before one of those meetings today? I think we have that tape. It was quite interesting. There it is. Almost saying, I got your back. I don't know what that message was.
Well, you know, I remembered my interview with Putin when I said, why is it so many people that oppose you end up dead? And as I saw them high-fiving each other, I wondered if they were thinking the same thing.
Yeah, that's right. Well, this is going to be a lot of fun this weekend. Go ahead, last word.
Well, it'll be interesting. And the one thing that Reagan didn't do is he didn't cut the defense budget. And so to cut 5% out of this defense budget, that's $30 billion. What is that going to do to readiness? What is it going to do to deterrence? That's what the discussion is going to focus on here.
Should be very interesting. Thank you both very much. I'll be interviewing the Defense Secretary tomorrow. You'll see that live on Fox News Channel. The reason Krauthammer perhaps is on my mind is because his son, Daniel Krauthammer, will join us Monday for his new book, The Point of It All. He has completed the book. He edited it, but it was his father's book, and he finished it as he passed. Daniel Krauthammer, first time he's talking about it, 6 p.m. Monday. Now to other news. 2 earthquakes measuring 7.0 and 5.7 rocked Anchorage today. Incredible pictures and video of the damage done still coming in from Alaska as the neighbors to the north of me here in California capture these images of the quake. Thankfully, no injuries have been reported yet. Correspondent Dan Springer joins us live from our Northwest Bureau with a look at the aftermath. Good evening, Dan.
Yeah, good evening, Brett. They are still assessing the damage in and around Anchorage, but we already know this. It is major and will cause problems getting around Anchorage for many months. The earthquake was centered in Point McKenzie, just 5 miles north of downtown Anchorage, home to about 280,000 Alaskans. The ground shook for over a minute, causing severe damage to roads, bridges, breaking water mains, and knocking out power to tens of thousands. It triggered a tsunami warning, which was later canceled. Also, the 800-mile oil pipeline, the money-making lifeblood of the state, has been shut down as a precaution. There are no reports of damage to that pipeline. The airport was also shut down for a while, but planes are again being allowed to take off and land. The regional head of FEMA is on his way to Anchorage, and the state's congressional delegation just held a news conference.
It has impacted the major arterials in and around Anchorage, and that is a concern.
The video, as you see, is dramatic. This was on the 6th floor of the courthouse in downtown Anchorage. You can see things banging against the walls and people taking cover. There are reports of widespread damage, primarily to the many houses in the area. Wasilla's own Sarah Palin, the former governor and vice presidential candidate, put out on social media that her family is intact, but her house is not. Alaska is the most seismically active state in the country, with 10,000 earthquakes per year and 45 a year that range in strength between magnitude 6 and 7. But it's rare to see a quake this strong in Anchorage. The great news, there are no reports of any deaths or even significant injuries. But there was plenty of drama. We got a picture taken by the guy who was driving this truck. When the earthquake started, it was dark outside. He stopped the truck. When he got out, the road had collapsed around him. He's okay, but like so many Alaskans today, nerves have been shaken, and it's still too early to tell exactly the extent of the damage. Brett?
Dan Springer in our Northwest Bureau. Dan, thanks. The number of active duty troops along the border with Mexico will go down, but the Department of Homeland Security is requesting civilian law enforcement from several other departments to try to fill the void. Officials say the Homeland Security Department submitted a formal request for the additional civilian support today. This as we learn the number of active duty troops along the border will drop from 5,600 to 4,000. It will be extended, though, through January. Up next, your recent hotel stay could have opened you up to one of the biggest hacks in history. First, what some of our other affiliates around the country are covering tonight. Fox 40 in Sacramento, where body camera footage shows what people have called the closest thing to hell. This video from a California sheriff's deputy shows him nearly overrun by flames as he helped evacuate people from the deadly campfire in Paradise. Incredibly, he and a group of stranded nurses survived all of this by finding a bulldozer that helped them escape. Fox 35 in Richmond, where the court in the James Fields murder trial will allow 2 Instagram posts showing a car running into protesters with the caption, "You have a right to protest, but I'm late to work," into evidence. Prosecution says it shows premeditation and debunks the defense argument that Fields was acting in self-defense when he drove his car into the crowd of counter-protesters at a white nationalist rally last August. And this is a live look at Las Vegas from our affiliate Fox 5 out there.
What an impressive guy. President Obama himself saying, this is a guy who speaks authentically. He doesn't do poll-tested type of speeches, and people react to him with great passion. What do you think?
I think it obviously remains to be seen who's going to rise to the top. I think it's probably too early to just count someone else and call them a loser, because it seems to me moving forward, it would behoove the Democratic Party to have really it be based on substance. We just saw the parade of misfits happening. So clearly there's a million people that keep saying they're thinking about running and that will be throwing their hat in the ring. So why not add Beto to it? Why not add one more misfit to the island?
Misfit? You're all misfits.
I mean, moving forward, I think it will be an opportunity to see all of them individually shine. So let's hear what their platforms are. Let's see their substance. Let's see their fresh new ideas. Let's see them galvanize the millennials. Let's see them galvanize those voters that didn't turn up in the midterms, even though people were canvassing out there, and that they're not just talking either about themselves or in direct responance to the president.
Did Juan just make you back off your misfit comment? That's what it sounds like.
Don't do that.
Don't let Juan do that.
Do you remember when I was that nice?
Yeah.
You'll get over it.
She'll be great. She'll be great. So, Jesse, you have a situation here where it's potentially the case that people who are Obama loyalists are split between Joe Biden, who is currently the #1 pick of Democrats to be the nominee, and someone like a Beto O'Rourke.
That's a really good point. I think you're right about that. And it looks like Rahm falls into the other camp. He looks like he's a Beto hater. It is probably very loyal to President Obama and doesn't like the comparisons. Maybe the comparisons rub him the wrong way. I think Obama was more substantive than he was. He definitely had a little more charisma. They both have similar kind of grassroots appeal, very handsome and articulate. But I just don't see Beto catching the fire the way Obama did. I think he's too young, he's too green, and I don't think he has the sharp elbows. Remember, Obama was pretty strong in those debates, and he had a pretty sharp tongue. I think Beto's too nice. I will look at some of those other candidates. Julian Castro, he's got a good look. I think he could definitely go far. And Sherrod Brown, whatever his name is, he's got that gravelly voice that kind of people listen to, so he could go far. But there's going to be so many
Your in-depth analysis is amazing.
It's very superficial.
No, but this is Jesse's theory that good-looking people go farther in life.
That's right, Greg. That explains where I am today.
You were bullied for it earlier, remember? You said you were bullied for your good looks yesterday.
That's
so
true.
Which is it?
You know,
is
it's a burden that I bear. It is a burden that I bear. And I just want to say one thing. If there's going to be so many candidates, there's not going to be enough money to go around.
Oh.
So these guys are going to just drop out after the first couple debates if they don't raise any money.
So, Dana, I won't respond to Jesse because I think there were 17. But I wanted to say, go ahead, because I was going to ask you a question.
I would say a couple things. Well, one, like before Rahm was an Obama guy, he was a Clinton guy. And the thing about Rahm Emanuel is he knows how to win. So when the Democrats beat back the Republicans in 2006 in that midterm, Rahm was in charge of that.
That's true.
And so then he goes and he's won twice in Chicago. The thing is, he knows how to win. He understands the Democratic base. Of course, it's changing, but there are more regular, straight Democrats than you have on the progressive side. However, when he says that Beto O'Rourke is a loser, yeah, but he came pretty close.
Amazing.
In a very red state, and he raised a ton of money. But here's the thing. I think what Rahm is also trying to say to someone like Beto O'Rourke is that you're going to have to earn it. You're not just going to be, it's not just going to be handed to you. You're going to have to come and court us and see if we will actually get on your side.
That's a great point.
Thank you. I thought I was so.
So, hey, Greg, I want you to have some fun with something.
Yes.
So here are how the Democrats, you know, this, what do you call them, misfits? This lot of misfits, according to our pal, is going out and writing books. And the one book by Elizabeth Warren is called The Fight is Our Fight. The book by Kamala Harris, The Truth We Hold. The book by Bernie Sanders, Where We Go From Here. I guess we can be expecting books from Cory Booker, Amy Klobuchar.
Cory Booker should have a Booker.
Yeah, there
Elizabeth Warren missed her title should have been No Reservations. You know, this is not an election right now. It's like a weekend 5K fun run. You know, there's a whole motley crew of people showing up. There's about 150 of them. About 90% of them are not going to make it. Beto is cursed to be the one that showed up too early and is being talked up too early. It's like the first one interviewed at a beauty pageant.
But that means that he should run this time, because if you wait too long, just like with Elizabeth Warren, she should have run this last time. She's not. Now it's passed her by. With Beto O'Rourke, maybe he's got to seize the moment.
I don't know.
You don't know. Hey, so by the way, since all these Democrats are misfits and misbegotten to Emily and Greg, what happened? What did you say about those 17 that were running?
No, I mean, no, that's what I've always been consistent in this, is that what you will run the risk of having so many people that you'll have a contrast between similarities and one unusual person.
Right.
So what happened with Trump is you had 16 similarities, even including the women, but they were politicians, and then the one non-politician stood out.
Yeah.
So if they have 20 people, 19, 15 people.
So who's the one?
I think it's Mark Ruffalo.
Oh, Mark Ruffalo.
That is my prediction, that he's going to run as a progressive candidate, and he's going to win the nomination because he's a great Hulk.
Wow.
He's the only likable progressive.
I hope you have a good weekend, man, and calm down. All right, Knickers, the giant cow, may have some competition. And is Delta Airlines going too far with its new facial recognition technology? All of that, so much more. Stay with us. It's ahead on the Fastest 7 on the 5.
In a G20 family photo just moments ago with world leaders. We're keeping an eye on that.
That's a nice picture.
But now it's time for the Fastest 7. First up, pay less, fooling so-called fashion-savvy influencers with this clever ad campaign.
We built a fake luxury store in Los Angeles and filled it with Payless shoes. The guests at our grand opening party had no idea.
They're elegant, sophisticated.
I just think it's so classy.
And I could tell it was made with high-quality material.
These fashionistas actually paid $200, $400, and even $600 for Payless shoes.
Don't worry, the fashionistas did receive full refunds in this little experiment. The company is saying they just wanted to change people's perceptions about what luxury should cost. Greg, I love this story.
You know, but the thing is, though, I would have figured it out, because I wear nothing but Louis Vuittons. They give a nice shape to my cap, and I could still run from the cops. But you know who also tried to trick people was Claire McCaskill. Did you know what she did?
What'd she do?
She tweeted 3 segments from, I guess, CNN, MSNBC, and Fox News showing coverage of, I guess, the Mueller probe, and they showed animals are great, with the idea that that's what we were covering. Instead, the fact that we led the show yesterday on the Mueller probe, and that Claire McCaskill is, in fact, a lying idiot.
You know what, Claire? Animals are great. All right, Dana, what do you think about fashionistas?
I love this story, too. I often think I'm overpaying for things. And I haven't been to Payless in a while, but I would go back in now. And I think a lot of these influencers are total baloney.
Yeah, what's an influencer anyway?
Oh, it's like, you know, people who are fashion
You're an influencer.
critics.
Am I?
Yeah. Not only that, you are an influencer.
That's scary.
because you're on TV and people would say, hey, that's a nice suit Jesse has on. Where do you get that suit?
Well, thank you. It's J. Crew. Send it over, guys.
I don't think they will.
But you know what this story reminds me of is that on Sundays when I open the Sunday paper magazines and they have fashion things, I think, what women wear this stuff?
You still read a paper?
I do.
It's called the internet
newspapers.
I read the hard copy Wall Street Journal every day.
Of course you do, Dana.
After the book you finish. Okay, Emily.
Getting good with the boss.
I loved this. I thought it was brilliant marketing. And
it's marketing.
And I feel like it's super Emperor's New Clothes, where everyone, when you tell someone it is worth $1 million, all of a sudden everyone is like, oh, yes, and this is amazing. And it just kind of brings everyone back down to earth.
That's true. All right, up next, everybody hates waiting in long lines at the airport, including me. But would you be willing to do this to save a few minutes? Delta launching the first facial recognition technology in Atlanta tomorrow. It's going to allow flyers to just breeze through security, and all they have to do is just show their face. But the new technology is raising some privacy concerns. But Delta says it doesn't store the images. Greg, do you believe that Delta does not store the images?
Oh, but no, there's a bigger story to this, because this is where this is going to ultimately lead, is to face theft.
Ooh.
Okay, so how easy will it be for me to 3D copy Jesse's face and then access his most private records and accounts with the face? Or I could just peel your face off and just put your face on mine, like Silence of the Lambs business, and just go in there. Because people are going to start stealing rich people's faces and using them to get into their accounts. And it's so easy.
Deep fakes. I mean, that's like deep fakes. That is possible. But, okay, if you have an iPhone 10, you're already doing this. And you do it a million times a day when you look at your phone. You know what I mean?
So you're not as scared. This
I
is
don't
not
care.
scary?
No, I'm for technology. Go for it.
Me too.
Okay, but what if you're trying to, like, you know, lay low, and then all of a sudden you go somewhere and everybody
knows.
knows?
About that?
I'm just saying people try to set other people up, Dana, and this is kind of an
You know what
hindrance
you
to
could
that.
do, Jesse?
What?
Take a selfie. Remember that was your solution? Take selfies.
Before I go through security,
I'm
take
right.
a
It's me.
selfie.
It's me. You know, look, already, by the way, they've caught like 2 or 3% of people who didn't have the right passport, and they were criminals. So, I mean, it works. But I would say I'm with Dana. I think anything to get me through an airport faster, I'm saying
And this
go
is
for
supposed to shave off how many minutes?
9.
9?
So
That's
I'll
valuable.
take those 9 minutes.
Yeah.
Sure. I mean, and I'm sure in the aggregate, too, that's a lot. But I also think the downside potential is pretty huge here. And from what I understand...
What is the downside?
Well, from what I understand, a lot of facial recognition technology has issues identifying people of color. That there is not only the storage aspect, but the hacking aspect. The fact that you're going from the curb to the plane without showing your passport at all. Would it be worth your 9 minutes back to know that there were multiple checkpoints so that you were safe on your plane?
Oh, wow. Way to bring it down. Silly. Way to
You know
bring
what
it
I'm
down.
worried about? The deep state. That's what I'm worried about.
Smoking like a Trumpian.
Already.
The deep face.
And I will say, there's a lot of people working on facial recognition technology. Working on facial recognition technology that have voiced concern over this kind of technology.
What did he do to you?
Bunch of misfits.
What did you do?
Bunch of misfits. All right, and finally, move over, Knickers.
Oh, wow.
You like that one, Greg?
No.
The massive 6'4"
I would never have done that.
cow making headlines around the world apparently has some competition. A Canadian farmer claims his own so-called gentle giant named Dozer is an inch taller.
Wow.
What if these are real? Wait. What if these are just really small people?
Well,
I mean, this could be a total
next to that.
Well, no, exactly. But here's my thing. I would rather have, forget big bovines. I would rather have little tiny genetically engineered cows, so like they could be in your house. Like you could be sitting on the couch, you go, "Hey, Bessie," runs up, jumps on there, and you squeeze out some milk. Just look, you have a glass of milk right there, just all the time.
Would you do that?
Yes,
Would you milk your own cow?
little genetically engineered baby cow in your house, and you just have milk whenever you want.
Do you remember when you had to milk that goat at the event?
Yeah.
Why go out for milk when you have the cow at home? Perfect, Greg.
I just love that they were saved. Both of these cows were saved.
I think we should reconsider that.
Wait, does that analogy have a different meaning?
I don't know. Never heard of it. Never heard of it.
I
I
ran
think that's
straight through
about
it.
human relationships.
Oh,
Jesse.
I'm
Human
thinking about
relationships.
milk one.
All right.
All right.
Yeah, I love that both of these cows were saved, basically. Both of them were slated to be, I almost said massacred.
Hurry up!
You know what? They were saved. Their lives were saved, and I appreciate that, and I like that it's a gentle giant. I think that's sweet. Also, I think that
Oh my God, you've had so much coffee. How much coffee did you
Do you know
drink?
what's going on?
Just a little
Do you
bit.
want to know what's going on?
What?
They are hazing you.
No, she's
Did I pass?
She's
Am
the
I
fastest
initiated?
talker on the planet, and to prove it, I don't care if this bites into fan mail.
Just read one paragraph.
Read right, it's from the Pence book.
This is Charlotte
Are you kidding me?
book.
What
There
did
you
say
go.
the official honest, but Dad bitches and jumps anyway. Our two parents dangerously before he left me studying the breakfast power.
you know, this is like those ads for drugs, you know, at the end of the drug ad.
For 2 days. I wait for them my morning when I went to panic. I'm sorry. Our neighbors said that these are drapers, and we'll be sorry if a few home cooked meals over to them. That famous hospital.
Oh my God! Speed
It's
reader.
my parlor trick.
And,
Wow.
and I'll do it slowly for you. If you take this drug and you have a problem after 4.5 hours,
No, that's
seek immediate
By the way, you
medical
can make a lot of money doing that.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's just my life.
All right, unbelievable. Anyway, don't go anywhere. Fan Mail Friday is up next.
All you got to do now. Time to calm. Yeah, it's massage
Maybe
music.
you want to run to the restroom.
Fan Mail Friday, small bladder Dana. All right. First question, if you could steal any museum artifact and get away with it, what would you steal? Emily.
Am I allowed to resell?
Yes.
Okay. Then
practical.
Then the King Tut mask.
Oh,
Okay,
fantastic.
that's a good one.
Yeah, I like that one. I went to see that once.
Yeah.
What's the name of that diamond?
Hope Diamond.
The Hope Diamond.
God,
Yeah, because there was one, you know, I always think, boy, that'd be something, you know, you have people over to the house, you know, Emily and Dana, Greg, Jesse come over, and there's the Hope Diamond. They wouldn't believe it. See, they'd all say, that's a fake one, get that out of here. And I say, no, it's real.
Yeah, Jesse?
I'm going to go dinosaur bones.
Oh, nice.
Yep.
Mona Lisa? Pretty boring.
Mona Lisa, that's kind of obvious, don't you think?
Not an artifact, Dana.
By the way, you know what? I would have to say I wouldn't steal anything, because what if you got it home and it smells?
Oh.
Because you never know. These things have been sitting around for a while. They probably have some weird stench to it.
You wouldn't notice it. You got the cow in the apartment.
I don't think a diamond is. The diamond is like a commodity, right? Isn't it a commodity? I don't know. Let's move on. Ooh, what is your most essential appliance? And I think for Jesse, it's Frenchie firecracker. But what is your most essential?
Hair dryer.
Yeah, that's
hair dryer. You know, I actually never used a hair dryer until about 6 months ago, and it changed my life.
Yeah.
Changed my hair, changed my life. Coffee machine.
Oh, fantastic, yeah. Keurigs. Keurigs, is that what you say? Keurigs?
I don't know. I don't know what the brand is.
Keurig, there you go, Keurig. Boy, I'm losing my mind, Dana.
I'm going to go dishwasher.
Interesting.
I don't like to wash dishes.
Well, I find it therapeutic to wash dishes.
Oh, really? How many dishes do you wash?
None. Right? It's therapeutic to watch other people do it.
I think she called you out, buddy.
Juan, essential appliance?
Well, you know, I was thinking I like hot and cold, so I like microwaves and refrigerators because then you can eat whenever you want to eat.
That is true.
I dig it. But lately, I really am into my water pick.
Interesting.
You don't know what a water pick is?
For brushing his teeth.
Yeah, you go, and
Jesse, it's for your mouth.
I've never heard of it.
For me, it's not my most essential, but it's my favorite. I have a like a battery
gun?
Yeah, it's shaped like a gun, but it's a drill. It's a drill, and it's a pink gun. Right? Do you know what I'm talking about?
It's a drill.
Yes.
It's a drill.
And it's in the shape of a pink gun.
Oh, thank God you said pink gun.
Yes. Yes.
All right. The most essential appliance for me is the bed, because I like to sleep.
That's not an appliance.
Mine is. It's got 37 speeds.
Oh, is that right?
It moves up, it moves down. It's
you have one of those?
Oh, yeah, it's amazing. You should come over.
He is cute.
All right, I'm not going to either of your houses.
One more thing up next.
Not for one more thing, Juan.
Oh, Friday fans, do you remember this woman? That's Rosie Ruiz.
Oh.
She famously cheated by taking a shortcut to the finish line of the 1980 Boston Marathon. Well, if you wait long enough, everything comes back around.
Wow.
This time, half a world away. Take a look at this tape.
Whoa.
Yep, several runners pulled a Rosie Ruiz at the Shenzhen Half Marathon. As you can see, they cut through the woods, shortening the distance they had to run. But that's not the worst of it. Others hired replacements to run whole sections of the race while they were resting. Nice. As a result, 237 cheaters have been banned from the race for the next 2 years.
Wait, where was that?
In Shenzhen, in Hong Kong.
Yep, okay. Well, I think that President Trump ought to bring this up tomorrow at the
Well, what does that look like?
Cheaters.
No.
The border?
They look like the border.
The border?
Right.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Tomorrow. Great show. We got Greg Gutfeld Show, 10 p.m. I got Terry Shepard. I got Mike Baker, Kat. I got Tyrus. It's going to be a lot of fun. Now, you know what it's time for? Animals are great. Animals are great. Animals are great. This one is dedicated to Claire McCaskill, who's clueless and now out of office. All right, look at this. It's a little dog, and behind him, he just knows. Something's going on behind him. He's not sure what it is. The cat's not doing a damn thing, but the dog's like, what the heck is going on? I know something's up. His spidey sense, his little pug sense is going, there's a cat behind me. I don't know. And you know why? Oh, there he goes. And you know, it just goes to show you, Claire. Animals are great. Animals are great. Animals are great. And Claire McCaskill isn't.
Well, okay, but one more thing. That's where we have all the fun. And, of course, you've enjoyed Animals Are Great. It's been in your ear all week. It's the earworm that won't go away. I decided to join in on the fun. Check this out.
Jasper is great. Jasper is great. Jasper is great.
Okay, check out this Jasper video. He's at the park. He's running around. He got to do this figure eights. He goes every morning at the park for an hour and a half. That is why. You know what we have to say next. Jasper is great.
Jasper is great.
All right. Thanks for 5-Fan Photoshop for that little joke. We won't bring it up again.
You promise?
Jesse.
All right. Take that, Claire McCaffrey.